All right, so get this. We're going deep today on corporate social responsibility.
CSR.
Yeah, exactly. All those things companies do to try to make a positive impact and all.
Yeah, right.
We found this really cool article. It's by a Guinness.
A Guinness.
Yeah, rhymes with Guinness, the
Yeah.
beer,
Okay, got it.
and Globus. And honestly, this might change how you see companies, like all those do-gooder things they try to do.
What I found really interesting about their work is it's not just, like a list of types of CSR. They actually give us a way to understand why some of it works and some of it, well, let's just say it can kind of backfire sometimes.
Oh, okay. Now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
But before we totally jump in, can we define CSR just in case someone's new to this whole thing?
For sure. So basically, CSR is about how a company thinks about its impact on the world and not just, profits.
Right.
It's about looking at the social stuff, the environmental stuff, making sure all the stakeholders are considered, not just the shareholders.
Yeah.
And that's where that triple bottom line comes in.
Oh, yeah. People, planet, profit.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's like realizing that a company's actions, they have ripple effects. It goes beyond just their own financial stuff.
For sure.
But I'm guessing it's more than just doing good.
Right. You got it. And that's where a Guinness and Glavis, this is where their research is so cool.
Okay.
They talk about embedded versus peripheral CSR.
Ooh.
And this is a game changer. So embedded CSR, that's woven into the DNA of the company, their strategy, how they operate day to day, even their core competencies.
So it's not just throwing a donate button on their website
No.
or having one volunteer day a year.
It's got to be way more than that.
Got it.
It's about making those social and environmental things the core of what they do.
I see. So I'm starting to see why this is more powerful and maybe why the surface level stuff sometimes messes things up. Can you give us an example of what this embedded CSR actually looks like in a real company?
Absolutely. So think of GE and their eco-imagination thing.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't just some marketing campaign. This is them strategically investing in green tech.
Yeah.
They're making their business grow and being sustainable at the same time because it's just how they do business now.
So it's a win-win, built in.
Yeah.
I like that.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about the flip side? What makes peripheral CSR less effective? Is it always a bad thing?
It's not bad, but it's definitely not as good.
Right.
It can even backfire if it's not authentic,
Yeah.
Think of philanthropy, volunteering,
Sure.
good deeds, but not really central to the company itself.
So it might feel like they're just trying to clean up their image, greenwashing.
Exactly. And people are getting smarter. They can tell when a company's CSR stuff doesn't match up with how they actually act.
Right.
And that just makes people not trust them.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It explains why some research says CSR works, some says it doesn't.
Right.
It's it's not enough to just do the stuff. People want to see that you mean it.
Exactly.
But what about the employees? I know Guinness and Glavis talk about how embedded CSR impacts them psychologically.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What makes it so powerful from their perspective?
Well, a few things. It's pretty fascinating.
Okay.
One is meaningfulness.
Okay.
People feel like their work has a bigger purpose. It's not just a paycheck anymore.
Right.
And when a company actually lives by its values, it creates a sense of fairness, organizational justice. People see that everyone's treated well, not just them.
So I could be doing my regular job, but knowing my company actually cares about, say, the environment or ethical sourcing,
Yeah.
that would make me feel more connected to my work,
Yeah.
more engaged.
Exactly. You can bring your whole self to work. Your personal values match the company's, and that makes people more satisfied with their jobs, perform better, and they end up being more loyal to the company.
Right. Who wouldn't want to work for a company that they're actually proud of?
Right.
Okay, so this is seriously making me rethink how I see companies and all these socially responsible things they do.
Yeah,
But before we get too carried away, can we look at some more specific examples?
definitely.
You mentioned GE and Eco-Imagination.
Mm-hmm.
What are some other companies that are doing this embedded CSR thing well? And how does it actually work in their everyday business?
That's a great question. So Guinness and Glavis, they highlight a few other really interesting cases besides GE. They look at IBM and Intel, and each of these companies shows a different way to do embedded CSR. Yeah, so Like IBM, they're really trying to solve those big societal problems. They have
Mhm.
that Smarter Planet program. They use all their tech skills, their consulting to tackle things like, I don't know, traffic jams, food waste, how we manage water.
It's crazy how they use data and all that to make cities run better, smoother.
Hmm.
I remember reading about those smarter cities. It's like futuristic.
It really is. And when you think about like the environment, it gets even cooler.
Okay.
Less traffic, that's less pollution, right?
Yeah.
And not wasting food, that's saving resources. They're even helping cities deal with climate change.
Wow.
It's all connected, and IBM, they get that. It's like built into how they think about their business.
It's amazing how they connect all those different things and they solve them using what they're already good at.
Yeah.
So what about Intel? How do they embed CSR?
Intel, they're a really interesting case.
Okay.
It all kind of comes from this Moore's Law thing.
Moore's Law.
Yeah, so basically it says that computer chips, the number of transistors on them, it doubles every 2 years.
Wow. That's fast.
Super fast. So Intel, to keep up, they had to figure out how to make those chips without, destroying the environment.
So they kind of had to be sustainable right from the start.
Exactly. They had to be efficient, responsible, or they wouldn't be able to compete.
That's a built-in incentive.
Right. They've made CSR part of how they design and make their chips. They save energy, water, they reduce waste. They're careful about where they get their materials from.
Mhm.
They even have this system, a closed loop, for their water.
What's that?
So the water that comes out of their factories where they make the chips, it's cleaner than the water from the tap.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I bet it saves them a bunch of money too.
Right. It's like being good for the planet is good for business too.
It totally is. It shows that sustainability can lead to new ideas and, yeah, a better bottom line.
Uh-huh.
And it's not just the processes. They've made this culture at Intel where everyone is always looking for ways to be more efficient, more sustainable. It's like part of how they judge their employees' performance, even how much they get paid.
That's smart. It makes people really care about those values.
Yeah, it shows they're not just talking about CSR. It's really part of how they do things.
It's like walking the walk,
Mhm.
not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And that's what makes GE, IBM, Intel, they stand out.
Right.
They're not perfect, but they're proving that you can make money and be responsible using what you're good at to solve those big world problems.
It's really inspiring. It makes me think that businesses can actually do a lot of good in the world.
Yeah.
But let's think about us, like regular people, consumers and employees.
Okay.
How can we use this knowledge? It's cool to see these big companies doing this, but how can we make a difference ourselves?
That's a great question. And it gets to the heart of what Guinness and Glavas are saying. We got to understand that difference between embedded and peripheral CSR.
Yeah.
That's how we make responsible business actually work for companies and for us.
So what does that look like? Like, how can we be better consumers, better employees?
Well, as consumers, we have a lot of power, maybe more than we think.
Okay.
When we buy from companies doing that embedded CSR, we're saying, hey, these values matter to me.
It's like voting with our dollars.
Totally. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Oh, right.
When you see a company saying they do all this CSR stuff, look closer.
Yeah.
Are they really doing it, or is it just for show?
It's about like looking past the marketing and seeing what they actually do.
Exactly. And if you're looking for a job,
Uh-huh.
don't just look for those buzzwords on their website.
Right.
Ask them, how do you live your values? How does CSR fit into your plans? How you measure success? How you work every day?
It's about finding a company where you feel like your values match up.
Yeah, and where you feel like they're actually making a difference.
This whole embedded versus peripheral thing,
Hmm.
it's really been eye-opening for me.
Yeah, me too.
It's changed how I see companies and all their socially responsible stuff.
Mhm.
And it's giving me some ideas for how I can live by my own values.
Yeah, it really makes you think, like, is it even possible for a company to be truly good if what they do, like their main business, is harmful?
I see what you mean.
Like, what if they make something that hurts the environment? Can they really make up for that by, I don't know, giving money to charities or doing volunteer stuff?
That is the big question, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, Guinness and Glavas, they don't give us like a simple answer.
Right.
But their work, it definitely gives us a way to think about these things. It makes us really think about what it means for a company to be truly responsible.
It's a conversation we all need to be having, for sure.
Absolutely.
But it also makes me wonder, how do we actually measure how effective this embedded CSR stuff is? Like, what really matters? Is it, like, shrinking their environmental footprint?
Yeah.
Or making sure workers in their supply chain are treated fairly? Or something else entirely?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
There's no magic answer. It's different for every company.
Right. It depends on what industry they're in, what their goals are, what they care about most.
Okay, so how do we even start to figure that out?
Well, I think we got to look beyond just the numbers,
Yeah.
the quantitative stuff.
Right. So, like, not just how much carbon they're emitting or
Uh,
whatever.
Exactly. We need to consider the qualitative stuff, too, the things you can't just measure with numbers.
So things like how happy their employees are, how they work with the communities around them,